I'm John. I've worked in IT. I've been working in IT for 20 odd years now. Before I met Ed and Helen, I had 2 properties already. And yeah, they were kind of fluke purchases really. I didn't really know what I was doing, but they were just property that I thought, well, I've got to buy something.
And what have you gone on to do since then?
Okay, since then I've bought 6 properties in total. So 4 additional properties since meeting Ed and Helen, including my own. Yeah, so now I've got 7 properties. So this is why I need to write things down. Cash flow and growth at the same time. And it could be a matter of getting some with cash flow and some for growth, or some that are going to be from both areas. But yeah, it's important to me to be able to get both cash flow and growth.
Yeah.
I think the difference having Ed and Helen to guide me is that I've felt that I can call on them whenever I've really needed help. Just a pair of eyes to look over my research and to validate some of the things I've done, and also just to get them to pose questions which I mightn't have thought of. So they're great to have as a backstop. But also the kinds of knowledge that I've learned from them has meant that I've really been able to ask or research better, get more quality into the research that I'm doing. So rather than just fumbling around and buying a property and hoping for the best, actually having a better sense of what I'm buying and why I'm buying it and what I'm hoping to get at. It's not so much I've got a stronger buying criteria, I think I've got a less nebulous buying criteria, a more specific one. As opposed to someone who's just going to start buying and hoping and praying that something's going to happen. Being able to figure out what it is that I'm trying to achieve, look at the kinds of property I'm needing to get that goal, and then being able to target the properties that's going to give me that. It's given me a better sense of awareness, I guess, of the properties that I'm going to buy and what they're going to be doing for me. The goal for me for investing in property is to be able to retire comfortably, to be able to have financial freedom, to be able to to be able to completely replace my income so that I can have a quality lifestyle as I get older without having to work harder as I get older.
introducing yourself, and then I'll just ask you a few questions.
I'm Helena Facer. This is
Lance Facer.
We're from Tassie.
And what are your occupations?
I'm self-business owner.
Yeah.
Own a gift and homeware shop.
And I work in engineering in water treatment.
Beautiful. And tell me about your property investing journey so far. What are your goals? What do you hope to achieve?
You go.
We bought buying our principal residence, and we've previously bought a couple of investment properties, but we want to sort of take that to the next level and get to a point where our passive income can support us, and that's our ultimate game.
Yeah. And you've got a specific deadline for that, or a specific timeline?
4 years.
4 years.
Well, no, I'll tell the truth. Mine is 4 years, and Lance was like, oh, let's just go with the 10 years, but Helen has helped Lance realise that we can push for the ultimate goal, basically. So that's what we're going for.
So we're going for the stretch target.
Okay, fantastic. And what have you achieved so far in the program?
Well, not just buying properties, it's more like we know how to get from A to B, get where we want, form our strategy of what it is that we need to buy, probably areas that we need to look at, but we've also put a contract down on our first property, well, in the next couple of days hopefully.
And tell me about that property that you're in the process of purchasing.
Well, we've got to a point, I guess, where we've bought properties, but we weren't too sure on where to go to from there. But in order for us to continue to buy properties, we needed to maintain our cash flow so that we would not hit the brick wall and be limited in where we could go from there. So we're looking at a cash flow positive deal, and that just fits in with our strategy. It helps us to move on beyond that.
But it was also because I've only had my business for 12 months. Nothing that I earn or nothing that I do really counts, so it's pretty much like I'm not employed. So it's being based off one income. We had to go cash flow pretty much for our first 1 or 2 deals that we look at.
So, and a lot of people say, positive cash flow properties, they don't exist. What would you say to people that say, you can't find positive cash flow properties?
I think if you're willing to take the risk in certain areas, then they're out there, but I don't think you necessarily have to take that much of a risk.
Yeah, I would say that it's perceived as a risk, but I guess a risk is something that you take if you do something blindfolded, and because we've learnt what we need to look for and what are the right ways to do things, we mitigate that risk by covering the concerns that you might normally have.
And everyone determines their own level of what's a risk for you or me or between us.
What's your hedging backup position? And what sort of cash flow are you looking at on the property?
Well, it's a highly cash flow positive deal, so we're looking in excess of around the 10% positive.
Yeah, so it's closer to
10% yield, so it's a very good opportunity.
Beautiful. And what would you say to people that were considering or on the fence about doing this sort of a program?
I would say that if it was something that you like, I often have talked about getting into property and being in property, and it's always been an interest, but it's been more of a talk thing. So I think if you really do want to make it happen, sometimes you do need a bit of a kick up the bum and just the tools to help you to go from just being a thinker and to being a doer, I guess. And we've learned the tools and we've got the mentors to help us to actually make it a reality. So it just...
I think it's not just that you get the network as well. So when you talk with your family and your friends, and they seem to always shut you down. So you're constantly like, I can't go there, I can't do this. And then you come to something like this and everyone else is in the same headspace and wanting to do the same thing, and you walk away with such an air of confidence in yourself that I can do it, I can achieve what I want to achieve, and you're not made to feel like it's an unrealistic dream basically, that 4 years we want to be financially free. You get the pat on the back, congratulations for wanting to achieve something like that, instead of like, as if that's going to happen. So
yeah,
that's the confidence in yourself and that you can do it, and then being given the tools, it just combines to make really something really powerful for me. Yeah.
It sounds like you're
And I was
pretty
probably
excited.
the skeptic to start with, so yeah.
So you were the one pushing
Well,
to.
it's always been my interest and my passion, I suppose, but Helena has always been supportive of it, and she's always said to me, well, do something about it, do something about it. So when I came upon this opportunity, Helena was more than happy to come on board, and Helen encourages partners to come, so Helena was more than happy to come, and I guess she didn't understand. Like I always felt that you can do quite well out of property, but for me it was just actually doing it and making it happen. But Helena probably didn't sort of see that so much as being a reality or something that could be achieved. So
I have an accountant as a father.
Conservative.
Love him to bits and he's useful, but very conservative.
Risk
I
averse.
grew up
Well, that's
a bit
what
more-
accountants are for, to be
Yeah.
risk averse.
So,
yeah.
And what you were kind of procrastinating a little bit in your property investing. What were there fears holding you back, or?
I think sometimes I don't know, it's just like too much analysis. I'd often look at something and think that's probably a good deal, and then get to a point where that's as far as I got, and then a year or so later you'd see that suburb or that area had done quite well, and you'd kind of kick yourself, but there wasn't that, I guess there wasn't the confidence.
It's
I'm not sure why.
learning to trust your research and your due diligence, and Lance is massive. He's the research king, as I call him.
I probably did
And
a bit too much research.
just doesn't necessarily follow it
But
through.
also we bought investment property before, and sort of taking it to the level where you sort of in a much higher bracket was probably a bit more than what I perceived was comfortable maybe, and it was just sort of like, okay, we've got that, we should sit now. Don't want to be too far outside the norm. Who knows? It was just a block, I think, and that
And
block
since you've
was,
joined the program, it's
yeah, well, it's kind of like Helena said with the like-minded people. You get to feel like you're not abnormal. Like it's realistic and it's possible, and you know you make the right steps, and
And
it's
with what
more
he's
than
been given,
reasonable.
I think I'm the one that's pushing, always saying, go on, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. And Lance is always like, oh, but. So he's quite conservative in his approach, and he's a bit more of the hedgehog and I'm the fox. And but this has taught us to sort of, for me, to hold back a little bit and research, and for him to sort of both, so that we meet a bit more in the middle. And the
found
balance is out. Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
Balance is out.
Thank you so much,
That's
guys.
all right.
Thank you for sharing patience.
Okay, I was from Malaysia.
Yeah.
Been staying in Australia for probably about more than 20 years now.
Yeah.
I worked in IT on Collins Street.
Yeah.
So I've been living in Melbourne for 10 years now.
And you've been working with Helen for a couple of years now.
Yep.
And what sort of a difference has it made working with Helen to your property investing?
Okay, prior to getting to know Helen, I was already doing property investment. But since joining Helen, I'm able to learn more about the due diligence process, understanding what is required to be a good property investor, rather than hearing from someone else advice where to buy. So by understanding how Helen works and going through all the notes that's required, the cost, it enables me to be a more detailed investor, knowing the numbers, how to crunch the numbers, the cash flow required, where to identify hotspots and all these things. So it has made me a more well-rounded property investor, so that I can be more self-reliant rather than rely on other people.
And how many properties have you bought since working with Helen?
Prior to joining the course, I already have 3, and since joining Helen, I bought another 2. Yes.
And would you say you're happy with the performance of the 2 properties you've bought since joining the program?
I will say yes.
Yes. Would you be able to talk about the performance of the properties you've bought since working with Helen, but from the start, like, you know, since working with Helen, I've bought 2 properties and I'm happy with the performance, and say it as a whole sentence, because we're editing my voice out.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I bought my 2 properties since I joined Helen, one of them is in Frankston, and because of understanding how the due diligence need to be put into place, I did more research into the area, talking to the councils, the agents, going to the area, look around. Through that process, I'm able to pick up a good deal. And the property has actually, I bought that last year, and since now it's been almost more than 1 year, and it has returned more than 10% growth, and getting a 5% rental return on that one. And the second one is Noble Park, which is an off-the-plan apartment which I bought almost the same time at Frankston as well, and it's finishing mid next year. And the property has increased in value on paper as well. I bought it for about 285,000, and there are 2 properties back on the market selling for more than 320,000. So, and I know that once it's finished, it's going to grow more. But all that also because of the due diligence in the area, what's happening in Noble Park, and also the surrounding area in Dandenong, all these things. Yeah.
Wow, the 2020.
Yes, the 2020 vision, the cities.
Yeah.
So all this is part of the result of doing more due diligence and research.
Beautiful. Thanks, James.
From?
Excellent. That was one of our best yet. Very specific. Now I'll just ask you a couple of questions.
Well, this is Debbie. I'm Brett.
Yeah. And you both work in the police force?
Yes.
Beautiful. And tell me about what sort of things you've learnt through being in the program with Helen, the Real Wealth program.
Some of the pitfalls, which have been good. Where to not buy, what not to buy, which is good. From what I've learned middle of the range. It seems to be a safe area, which seems to be the direction that they've taken. So your four bed, 2 bath. Seems to be pretty even. If you're buying risk areas, you've got to be prepared for the risks.
Yeah.
So I think the safe and slow and steady hedgehog way seems to be Helen's idea, which isn't a bad idea. So you can do really well. I've seen some people done really well with that. But sometimes you've got to look for opportunity, and if it knocks, if it's high risk, then you have a go.
So you're a bit of a fox and a bit of a hedgehog.
Well, I think this game is you've got to be prepared, which Helen and Ed putting us into. But opportunity, I think it's life. Opportunity knocks. You've got to be prepared to have a go.
Yeah.
And some opportunities you can do really well out of, and using the skills that they're giving us, then you can do well safely. So, but opportunities, you've got to look for them, and I think with this networking, like Dr. Bing, those sort of opportunities come up through getting to know people, and that's a great thing too.
So would you say this program for you is about building a foundation of education for building your property portfolio?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We've made some mistakes along the way, like just things that we didn't know. We didn't know about asset protection, and unfortunately something bad happened in our state with a copper in. Who's now being sued civilly. So we've now had to look at asset protection, which we never even bothered, never even considered before, never was a possibility. So we're really focused on trying to get the right structure up for us at the moment before we purchase it. So that's a big thing.
So creating a good foundation for your wealth creation.
Definitely, yeah.
What about Deb? What's the biggest thing that you would say you've drawn from the program?
That's probably one of the biggest things I've drawn is the asset protection and some of those things that you never even considered before.
Yes.
What else is it? And the finance, I guess, as well. We didn't know that you didn't have to cross collateralise. So we just took that as a given. So those sort of things, the basics, or I should say the foundations of what we didn't know.
Yeah, because cross collateralisation, I mean, the banks just do it, and then before you know it, your home's at risk.
Yes, and we've had that before. Well, not the home's at risk, but we've had to do that before to get to where we are now, and didn't think anything about it. Just thought that's what everyone had to do. So
and now you're working with an investor-friendly finance broker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that a different concept? So it's fantastic.
Yeah, because the thing about the bank finance brokers, they probably don't have multiple properties, whereas the Real Wealth advocated one has 2 million worth of properties. So
and just the courage to ask questions that you kind of didn't even know to ask before. Like one of the prime examples was we were talking to our the current lender on our principal place of residence, and we're actually at a fixed term at the moment. And just talking to them about how will we get out of it and the interest rates and so forth, and by going, well, I don't really like that, they immediately dropped a percentage on us. So, and that was something just that we picked up from listening to Helen, just question them a little bit more. So we went, wow. So, whereas before we would have just gone, oh, okay, question. So,
It's a bank man. What do you do? That's how it is. It's the bank guy.
yeah, and just go, oh, okay.
Half a point off like that.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
That was awesome. So, and then we told David, and he went, we can do better than that. We went, oh, great.
Now there's a competition so you can save you the most money.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So,
But Dave, he's in the game too, which is nice.
Yeah,
And actually
exactly.
having people who are interested in the same thing is good.
Yeah.
I mean, he is what he is, but he's also doing what we want to do. So investing. So he's got his fingers in both pies, which he makes money from doing what he does, but he's also buying himself. So
Yeah.
that it forms a bit of trust. So I mean, he's going to look for our industry to grow, being investing. So I mean, it means he's working in the same direction we are. So it puts a bit of trust in him without even knowing what he does before he starts. So it's a good thing.
So you'd say being put in touch with the panel of experts has been useful.
that's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. We originally had a really good accountant, and then he retired, and somebody else took over, and we had some really, really bad advice given to us. Didn't know any different. Come here and go, oh my god. So, and we're using Phil now, and he's fantastic. So, yeah.
In terms of setting up yourself for
Yeah,
asset
so
protection.
he's helping us set up our asset, doing the asset protection and the trust and that sort of stuff. Yeah. The panel of experts has been fantastic.
Congratulations, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank